Welcome to the Human Collab, a platform about people and their stories. You're listening to the second part of the two-part interview series on Arthashastra, the science of prosperity and its relevance in today's world, with our guest Anupama Ramteke. In part one, Anupama shared with us the origins of Arthashastra, Acharya Chanakya, and whom is Arthashastra meant for. This second part of the two-part interview series, Anupama shares with us her personal experiences and practical applications of Arthashastra and its relevance in modern times. She also shares with us how a common man can use Arthashastra and learn self-management, and how leaders can create sustainable organizations. We also discuss Panchatantra, Yoga Shastra, and other Indian wisdom. Let's dive into the enriching world of Arthashastra with Anupama.
It was meant for somebody who was a king, who wants to go on to become a swami, also written with a particular perspective of dharma in mind. Connecting all of it, when you look at the entire concept today, do you think it's relevant for today's generation? If yes, have you seen the applicability of it anywhere? Have you applied the concepts yourself anywhere? If you can share a little bit about that with us.
Answer your first question, it is pretty much applicable. Of all the things that I mentioned, even if you go ahead today and apply it in your personal life, pick something and try it out, you will find a relevance. First and foremost, because it talks about samashti, which means collective above individuals. Like I mentioned, the happiness of the people lies the happiness of the leader. So it is first collective, then individual, correct? So that's where the concept of prosperity comes. Then it gives a lot of importance to resources. Your resources are worshipped. We have heard about the process, the Purusharth, which starts with dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But what is it? In this entire process, the second comes artha. First is finding your purpose. Then you need to have resources in order to fulfill your purpose. Then comes kama. Kama is nothing but pleasures that you earn after you have fulfilled your purpose. And both dharma and kama are incomplete without artha. Even if you decide to, let's say you decided to start this podcast, but even the first thing that came to your mind was, do I have the wherewithal? Do I have the proper infrastructure with me? Do I have enough funds? Do I have connections? Do I have external resources, external people who can help me in getting this done? Right? So second most important thing are resources are the powers that will support you, and they need to be revered, right? They need to be literally worshipped and understood that nothing is relevant without resources. Third thing I'll come to is self-management. Here, when I spoke about swami, the journey of from being a king to a swami it's a long journey and it's an ongoing journey. But one of the things that involves in this journey, and the most important, is self-management, management of the inner world. Because the day you take care of yourself and your well-being is the day you will be able to manage the entire world. So Yoga Shastra can come into picture. Today we talk so much about, these days leaders talk so much about fitness. I'm a 5 a.m. Riser. I wake up early. I take cold showers. I go to the gym. In some way or the other, they realize the importance of good health. Because at the end of the day, good health will only help you in managing others. So management of the inner world in order to manage the outer world. Because you asked me about the relevance also, I'm going to give you a difference between modern management and difference between art and arthashastra. If you ask anybody who have studied, they would consider it like a forest, similar to planting a forest as opposed to planting a garden. What is the difference? The moment you get into a forest, you see a lot of trees around you. There is vastness. There are birds roaming around. There are fruits. And then what we see now is something that is sustainable. A forest sustains on its own. Correct? It is so huge Today, if you compare that with the modern management, it is like having your own small garden. If you don't take care of it, it will wither off. Right? So you need to be, so all those trendy things that we listen in the modern management, the word trend itself comes with an expiry. Correct? But Arthashastra does not have an expiry date. It is considered that like a forest of knowledge, a forest of principles, a forest of relevance, a forest of prosperity, right? So it is pretty much relevant today, and the more you study it, the more you realize it is nothing but nature. It is a cyclical process. I'll give you a very simple formula or simple strategy, and especially to even listeners today. Leadership, or let's say when you are building something, you are building it with a purpose. It involves a process, it involves a method, it involves a lot of efforts going around that. But how it is done? Is it a linear process? You're meeting people, it covers ideation, it covers growth, etc. But where does it end, or does it even end? At the moment we understand this four-step process, which we call Chatushtayam, you realize that you are actually building a legacy. It starts with, when I say it is nothing but nature, the nature's job is to create. So imagine a seed germinating, which is the creation phase. Then the seed grows into a plant, which is the consolidation phase. Then it bears fruits and flowers, which is the expansion stage. And then the fruits fall off, so that there is a new seed that is germinating to create yet another cycle of nature, and in this case leadership. You see the relation with it. Even in today's organization, if you apply this cycle, let's take an example of a startup. You create, which means you ideate. In this case, you ideate, you research, then you start consolidating with all that you have, the resources that I spoke about. You start consolidating all the things that you have. You start building processes, they start running on their own. Then comes a time, you think that, okay, I have built a good organization which is now nice 3 to 4 years old. I think I should now start expanding geographically. So you start expanding it. You start again experimenting over there. The moment it starts expanding, you realize that, oh, I'm alone over here. I'm not able to handle this. So what you do, you start creating successors, start delegating it to the people who are like you, meaning not look like you, but have a purpose like you, understand what you are doing. So you start delegating, creating, successors, so that you don't stop or take a back seat. You start creating again, but different things. In this case is new products, new services, newer geographies, and the cycle continues, Manasa. So it is all nature. You remember nature, you understand the relevance of nature. Arthashastra is derived out of nature and very much applicable because of this leadership cycle that I spoke about. It will take ages to even understand what the genius Chanakya wrote. But whatever I have learned so far, I have myself not just studied, but also applied. So bringing back to your second question, Anisa, is to start with, let's say I experimented with my own organization, my previous stint. Experimented not in the wrong sense, creating leaders in the organization with a good intention. Because there is an organization with employees and there is an organization with leaders, managers, finance team, infrastructure team, great customers, happy customers, great employees, right? So there is a lot of scope, and that's exactly what organization development is about, right? Which I was heading in Infinix. It was all about diagnosing what are the missing links and what will it take to go from the current level to near idealistic level. Yeah, because idealistic is idealistic. It's difficult because you are on a constant learning journey. So these were things that we had applied, and with great pride, I would say we first started with 25 leaders in our organization at a very senior level. They saw the change. I saw the change. It was very structured. It was not a training. It was not something that was a tick in the box. It was a genuine effort to create a great organization by creating great leaders. So the journey of 2 years started with them. I was also a part of it. So I studied and then I applied and facilitated at the same time, along with my mitras, which are the external consultants, my mentor. We were able to see some difference. There were changes. There were several mentoring, one-to-one mentoring sessions going on with these leaders to understand their personalities, to understand the challenges they were facing, to give them a perspective of leadership, ask them to try it out, and then take a follow-up of how did it go, right? So it was a long process. Then came a time when the leaders themselves said, we are benefiting out of it. Now let's try it with our deputies. So that's when we then went to the managerial level, the team lead level. We did around 200 to 50 of identified managers, did training for them, again based on arthashastra and Indian wisdom to be specific, which covered not just arthashastra but other aspects like panchatantra or yoga shastra. Again, that was benefit. So that was the time when I was in with Infinix. Now that I am not part of just one organization, now I'm on my own, taking great interest in creating entrepreneurial leaders and not just entrepreneurs. I also get an opportunity to work with young leaders, to work with corporates, facilitate programs over there. And these are, I would say, I'm going to repeat it, but structured way and the most applicable way of applying the principles of Indian wisdom or arthashastra. So it's an ongoing journey, Manasa. It's a journey that gives me joy all the time. The joy is the change that we see, yeah, and the feedback that we receive, that this is something that we've never come across before. This is not a regular learning and development program. This is really something, this is a way of life, let's call it that way.
Couldn't be put in a better way than, what you just concluded it by saying. It's a way of life. In today's world where businesses are chasing deadlines, profit is the bottom line, with the kind of fast cutting environment that we live in, have you seen Arthashastra produce results in these kind of environments where, let's just say, every quarter there is a new target that is set, you need to surpass it, there is cutthroat competition all around?
Yes, of course. See, we are always in the mode of urgency, whether we accept whether there is really any kind of emergency or urgency or not. We are on this constant race, especially, and you rightly mentioned, these days with the startup fraternity or the startup companies booming and everybody running behind valuation, what differentiates a company with a great company is the value creation. The moment we all realize that good things take time, and when done in the right way, will give you one results also immediately, in your case quarterly results, and also help you in becoming sustainable or creating sustainable organizations, or eventually creating a great legacy. Now, unfortunately, people miss out on studying great organizations. We see Tata, we see Wipro, Nestle, you name it, these large conglomerates today. What have they created? They haven't just created organizations, they have created a legacy. Yeah, they are here for hundreds of years and still continue to run. Why? Because if you go back and study them, you will definitely find an alignment with Arthashastra. And that's what even we do. We have these Shodh Yatras every year, wherein we meet one great leader in the country and we go and we visit them, we study them, their leadership style, how have they created prosperity in their ecosystem. Was it an immediate effect or was it a slow but long-term effect? However, for people who are still into quote unquote urgency mode and really want to get on their feet and get results now and now, for even then we have something called Panchang. Chanakya ke paas sabka jawab hota hai. What is Panchang? It's a 5-step process, or let's call it a magical formula for managing and executing projects and daily operations. It could be a one-day project, it could be a monthly project, it could be quarterly project, or a review that they have to give to show what they have done so far, or an ongoing project with several iterations to it. What is Panchang? Panchang means 5 anga, 5 types, 5 parts, starting with planning. Now, will you, as an individual, in general terms, let's call him the so-called leader, will you directly jump into execution, or will you actually give it a nice shape and form so that you understand that execution is nothing but the outcome? So it starts with planning. First, what you want to do. What are the objectives? Is it even smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound? Yeah, so you plan what you want to do. Chalk down your objectives. You then go to resources, the sense of when and where, what you're doing, for whom you're doing, when you're doing, where you're doing. Then comes the deployment of the resources. So how are you going to deploy them? Then comes the most important, yet the most neglected or procrastinated, I would say, is the backup plan. Having a backup for everything that you want to do. Going at the task level, literally going at task level to have a backup. अगर ये नहीं हुआ तो क्या करने का, अगर ये हुआ तो कैसे करने का, ये available नहीं है तो क्या करने का. So constantly questioning yourself, playing the devil's advocate at all times, wearing all the 6 hats when you're doing this. Yeah, and then finally executing. So even when it is a short-term thing, Arthashastra comes into picture. Even this small tool that I said about Panchang, this itself can help you in running your daily operations or getting immediately results. At the end of the day, the message is clear. One cannot skip anything. Yeah, there are no shortcuts to success. So whether you want immediate results or you have the patience of building a legacy and sustainability and sustainable organization, the relevance is everywhere.
Let's just say somebody who's a common person, can they practice Arthashastra? Also, we so far have kept referring to Swami or the king. This seems across as very gender specific. Is this gender specific, or is there a Swami and a Swamini? How's it like?
We may misunderstand Chanakya's or Kautilya's language because we haven't understood him to study him. But whenever he has mentioned the word Swami, it is not gender specific. It is gender agnostic. So my mentor calls the women in the community as Swaminis. It's like a choice. So yes, Swami in textual, literal terms will be referring to the male gender. But if you see anything that has coming across in Arthashastra, as wherein you may feel, oh, he is only referring to the man. No, that's not the case. This is said by people who do not understand him, the higher purpose for which he has written it. So it's absolutely gender agnostic. And to come to your previous question, the question leading to this, whether a common man like you and me practice? Of course, yes. Before studying Arthashastra, before coming across even something called Arthashastra, I was a common person. Today, I take pride, literally, in talking about it at length. Most important, it comes from the relevance again. How does one begin? One begins anywhere. But again, to give it a, we know how we human beings are, right? We have a natural tendency of losing out on the interest. उसके लिए भी solution है Indian wisdom में, which is, let's start with Panchatantra. But now you may ask, Are, but these are stories for kids, bedtime stories. And I would say, no, these are not just bedtime stories as we understand them. These were the stories written by Acharya Vishnu Sharman, again somewhere in 300, 400 BC maybe, which is a collection of animal stories written for the prince or the princess in those times who were on the path to becoming kings or the swamis. Now, again, there is a story behind that. There was this king who had 3 sons, and then he wanted to make them king, but he had no faith in. They were like, literally laid back all the times, had no qualities. He went through various, great scholars, but he was not satisfied. Finally, bumps into Acharya Vishnu Sharman, and that's where he tells them, I don't want any reward from you. I just want to take them away from you for a few months, where I will help them become the great kings. And that's where he taught them around 50 plus about stories, which are nothing but strategies to become the king. So again, they were grouped into different segments for them to understand. And why animal stories? Because again, it's easy for us to remember, visualize. And he knew and he had understood how these princes were. They were not interested in studying. तो उनके हिसाब से वो बनाए थे. So today, even today, in our facilitations, in our training programs, we use these stories to make it relevant for a common person to understand. And it's a very intense discussion. So we narrate the story and we let the audience derive meaning out of it. And again, it's easy to say, what are the top 5 learnings? Hey, what is your understanding? No, it's a discussion in itself. Compare it with sugarcane juice. How when we actually go to the person who is squeezing the juice out of the sugarcane, you may have seen how does he ensure that even it is squeezed until the last drop. So that's how the facilitation is done, the study is done to ensure that the entire, not just the essence of the story, but the in-depth meaning is understood, so that at the end of the day, even a common person realizes and goes and applies in his or her life. So Panchatantra to start with. Then there are several books around. When we started studying a book called Chanakya on Management by Sri Ashok Garde. It is a great book for managers who want to become leaders. So there is management and there is effective management. It's a very interesting book, again written on Arthashastra, but for managers. Then there are different web series, I would say. First, where I remember mentioning about Chanakya serial, you can visit that. Then there is Upanishad Ganga, another good serial on Indian wisdom. And one which I have started studying very recently is Suraja Samhita. This is for pure governance, to understand how, let's say for an example, a CEO of an organization or an entrepreneur can understand how an organization is made and how it is ruled, right? In a very audio visual style of understanding it. Then we have our own retreats, like I said, every year, meeting different people, aligning the concepts. So you yourself start experimenting it, applying it. For any layman person, I would really recommend you to start with one story at a time. Get into the depth of it, start narrating it with your friends, ask them questions, have a discussion, and it all should come from heart. As long as you have interest in understanding and studying, sky is the limit.
It's very interesting how you brought together a couple of elements, which is Panchatantra, and how you weaved it with, Arthashastra, because everybody, each spectrum of audience kind of gets covered there. You've got, you begin with kids and then you apply to the adult. So, what are the shortcomings of Arthashastra when you look at it from the lenses of today's world?
I don't know, Manasa. I am still exploring. I haven't come across anything as such, not because I'm proud ambassador of Arthashastra, but still figuring out. I would say the marketing hasn't been done enough to reach out to the common person. You remember in our school, we may have had a page on what Arthashastra was. Again, very limited information and lot of misguidance. What we understood was it's economics. And when somebody asked me, my mentor, I had just started studying, I said economics. And that was the only thing I knew about it. So awareness is something, is a shortcoming, I would say. It is not branded the way it needs to be branded and reached out to people, because again, it's a way of life. Going back to the sutra, the first sutra of the first chapter of the first volume, which I had done, quoted, is the science for taking charge and protecting and nurturing. That's what our life is all about, right? You create and you nurture, and that's how you live your life. So it's the way of life. So if people who are listening to this, I would really urge you all to at least start somewhere and see the effect of it. People may misunderstand it as something related to a particular faith or a religion, but no, it is pure science. So what's harm in understanding the science of earth, science of nature? Here is something that I feel maybe the shortcoming of Arthashastra as a scripture reaching out to the common man. It needs to be well spoken about so that the next generation also reaps benefits out of it. That's something that comes to my mind.
So basically, what you just meant was more than the shortcoming of the science of prosperity. What we are referring to is the promotion of how it needs to get out there and reach the masses is something that was not done enough, or maybe lost its course in the due time.
Because the artha, the scripture itself was lost in for several centuries and then found in early 20th century. So no blame on anybody. I really admire and really appreciate people like Shama Sastri, who translated the scripture from Sanskrit to a language that we could learn from. You will see a lot of people taking interest. So it is taking its own sweet time, and slowly people are realizing its importance. However, I personally feel, this is just my perspective, that it really needs to reach the larger audience only to understand the benefit it brings in your life.
Where can people find more information or get started with information about Arthashastra?
The first book, if you really want to get into the core directly, then you can start with Chanakya and Management, which itself takes time, like 2-3 years, but is in a very easy language. All you need to do is you need to take real efforts, not just to read the book, but learn the sutras and apply the sutras. So information है, information बहुत available है, अलग अलग formats में available है. However, how you study and apply it. You may be a professor, but how much of it are you actually applying it? You may be a leader and gone through several trainings based on Arthashastra and Indian wisdom, but how much have you applied to it? We ourselves, like I said, we've been studying it for the last 10 years. I have a community myself, so it is a community learning. started by Rajesh Kamath, who's our mentor. It's called Living Philosophy Study Group. And anybody and everybody across age is welcome to join. There is no start point, there is no end point. Even you, if you're interested to know more about it, you can start even in the coming Tuesday, because, and you may feel that, oh, I may have missed on so many things, but no, because Chanakya says spend time on learning every day, whether it's a book or a sutra or even a word every day. Something you will learn every day, something that will keep you aligned to your purpose, something that you will apply it in your everyday life or in your organization or professional life. So we have this group wherein we come together and study different sutras and do a lot of discussion around it, kind of a satsang in itself. And we've been doing diligently. We may have, in all these 9-10 years, cumulatively missed not more than 15 to 20 as the session itself. And it's really commendable because the mentor himself is so disciplined. But that's where one can start. Or we have these lot of resources available wherein whatever we have learned, we have converted them into videos. So it is also available on our Facebook page called UBLPSG, which is Uttishta Bharat Living Philosophy Study Group. There is a community called Chiranjeev Gurukul for somebody who wants to do a leadership development program, runs for 3 months. Or if somebody is interested in a one-to-one coaching, that also, because I am a mentor myself, I love sharing what I have learned and applied in the past with budding professionals. So that also can be done. There are so many resources. How you learn it, how you apply it diligently, persistently, every day, without any back behavior or any kind of distraction. So happy to help, happy to connect with people who are listening, happy to talk more about it anytime. It's a great pleasure, Manasa. Thank you so much today. I enjoyed this interaction a lot.
Likewise, Anu, it was extremely an enriching conversation for me. To be hearing about something, like you said, was a scripture as rich as this, which was lost and found, and today is being spoken about and being practiced by individuals like yourself who are willing to spread the learnings and the teachings. I'm sure it will benefit not just me, but also, the entire series of listeners who will then maybe pass the baton to somebody who's again interested in it. Thank you so much for being a part of the Human Collab, and forward to more such sessions with you.
Great pleasure, Manasa. Thank you so much once again. I have a big smile on my face. I know it's an audio podcast, but I hope you can feel it. So thank you so much. All the best to the Human Collab. May you meet many, many great leaders in your journey and spread their wisdom to the world. Thank you so much once again. Thank you.
This brings us to the end of Arthashastra, the science of prosperity and its relevance in today's time, with our guest Anupama Ramteke. The Arthashastra, like a forest, is a vast expanse of knowledge and principles. It's not just a trend that comes with an expiry date, but it's a way of life. So whether you're a common man wanting to become a leader or a manager wanting to become an effective leader, the Arthashastra has something for everyone. The principles of Arthashastra are not only relevant but also can be applied to various aspects of life, from personal growth to business management. Now, if you found this podcast impactful, we encourage you to subscribe to the Human Collab and leave us a review. You can also share this podcast with your friends and family. We are eager to hear your learnings. You can also connect with us on Instagram or share an email. Together, let's continue to cultivate hope, exchange stories, and foster a community where strength and compassion thrive.